Hey, everybody. Welcome back. 20 to Profitability here. So we got Jay Niblick and Brian Arzani. Say hey.
What's up, Jay?
Oh, man. So we're talking today about some cool stuff. Before we do, Jim wants us to make sure and remind you guys to go ahead and subscribe. If you haven't already and you're watching this out there in the wild, subscribe to these things. Just go to intermetrics.com, INNERMETRIX.com. You see it on here. Go to intermetrics.com and subscribe, because we're doing these things once or twice a week. We're putting out great content. We're going to be actually bringing in Alan, the managing director of the international division, and just talking about more stuff that has to do with how you as consultants can increase your profitability. Now, before we start the 20-minute clock, I'm kind of casually dressed today because shout out to my boy Brian, who's now a 2 Blue Star dad as of this week. So I want to recognize all the veterans out there that have served. Myself, you're now your sons. So there you go, Brian.
Brother. That means a lot, man. That means a lot. Son landed at Fort Benning last night. He gave us that call at 3 o'clock in the morning to let us know he was currently at processing and that he was going to go dark until further notice. So,
yeah, I mean, that's the last time he had hair of his own control for 22 weeks at least, probably after AIT as well. All right, so we give you guys 20 minutes of super awesome content to help you make more success, to be more successful, to generate more revenue and profit, make more money when you're an independent consultant. That's our primary focus here. We give you 20 minutes because, as Brian says, if you got an hour to be learning about more theoretical crap, I can tell you right now why you're not profitable enough. 20 minutes, dead, starting the timer. So, Brian, we're talking today about ROI, the drive for many, many years for corporations that are working with consultants that are like, especially on the human capital side, to say, show me the money, prove to me the ROI on what I'm spending with you and what you're doing for our people from coaching or leadership development or team building or sales training or whatever. How do we know it's working? So you go ahead and start the segue there. I got the timer going.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, Jay, it's crazy. You know, back when I worked at GE in the 90s, and you know what was crazy was we'd always go to training and the managers always go, hey, is it worth it? And we'd, you know, at the end of the training, we'd kind of like stick our finger in our mouths and we'd hold it up and go, wow, we really liked him and it was entertaining. And then I accidentally in 2001 ended up in the training and development world. And the biggest question I got asked at the organizations was, how are we going to be able to measure if you're moving the needle? How are we going to be able to measure the ROI on this? And I literally would sit there and go, well, you're going to observe behavioral change and you're going to, and I tell you what, man, that is a real question. And even to this day, we still continue to get asked time and time again where it's at. And we are super excited because here's the deal. We're not going to give you some theoretical, we thought of this in the last couple of months and we're bringing it to you. We have been doing this now with clients going on our 7th year within one client. We're going to talk specifically about it. So this isn't like some little, hey, it's a good idea and I live in a vacuum and everybody thinks it should be awesome. This friggin' works. And that's a big deal, is to be able to say, are we moving the needle with objective data? And how do you do it? And what does that really look like? So, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk specifically about it, man.
Well, and I think historically, everybody's heard this for many years, 10 years, probably the last time I really saw this start to pick up as the first time I started to see this pick up as a big demand. And it makes sense. You worked with sales organizations back when I was in Johnson & Johnson, you know, outside sales, orthopedic sports med implants, and, you know, sports medicine docs were buying them and putting them in operating suites, patients' knees and stuff like that. It's easy because if we do some work here, we can see if sales go up, right? That's what they used to say. Oh, wait, it's easy. But you're not directly measuring what's going on with the individual that's driving that sale. So it's an indirect measure. That's the only place in most organizations where you're having that much luck.
Well, and here's the thing, Jay.
Even indirectly say, look, sales are up. There's a lot of different things that happen outside of sales, even though. And so that's an indirect. And that's the best we ever saw. Outside of sales, if it's somebody who's in this organization, this department, doing that, all of these other things are still soft. So the best anybody was able to get is, we'll do a poll. You remember I was actually do this. We'll do a survey. How improved do you think the situation is? Dr. Marshall Goldsmith has proven this somewhat anecdotally, but to say, if we get the people involved in improving the process, at the end of that, they're typically likely to think the process has improved because they were involved in improving it. Okay, so we send a poll out and we say, yep, look, everybody thinks it's better. And then boom, did it really get better or not? Now we know it's better, but this isn't a problem with down the road as much. You have to get fired because you didn't do it, or you're continuing to be retained because you did it. In the very beginning, organizations are reluctant to engage sometimes because they're saying, before we even spend this money, help us understand how you're going to show demonstrably there's improved results. And your competition is going to do what Brian and I just talked about. Well, we'll send a survey around and we'll ask people if they think it's better. And if they say it's better, then, well, happy shit, it's better. You know, Brian's going to talk to you. I'll let him take the rest of it for the most part, but I got some stuff I'll show. We will teach you how to use personality assessments to actually put numbers that show here's where they were, here's where they are now, better, worse, about the same.
Yeah. And that's the key piece. And so here's what happened was we helped build a leadership academy for an organization where they were going to go out and say, look, we're going to have, up to 26 individuals a year go through an application process to determine if they should be in this emerging leader, show highest potential. So out of 500 applicants, 26 would get picked. I don't know how they pick 26, but it's always 25, 26. And then they spend a year and they go through different things, everything from how to eat, at a professional dinner to, how to build goals. And they built a curriculum around that. And what happened was we had them take our 3-dimensional instrument, the behavioral one, the values, and the axiological one. And we call it the advanced insights. And so they completed it at the beginning. And what was wild was, thank you for doing that. So we had them completed at the beginning, and we started to talk to them a little bit about, what I call is we bookended it. We kicked it off and we taught them about self-awareness, all the stuff we talk about in the genius process of, the greatest performance comes from those that are self-aware and authentic, understand blind spots, either build personalities or positions or processes to complement those blind spots. But here's what we started to find. At the end of it, we had them complete the instrument 12, 13, 14 months later. Now, what's really cool is most individuals that have been through a master's program, at the beginning of the master's program, most folks enter that. And this is what we hear them say. They say at the beginning, I really didn't quite know where things were going to go and what it was going to be like. It was kind of a new journey. At the end, what we hear folks say who are coming out of a master's program is, man, I've got this rifle focus and this rifle vision of where I see myself going. What was really cool within this Leadership Academy is what we found in the beginning was that people were a little bit reluctant to engage. They weren't as proactive and aggressive. There were some trust issues that were going on within a lot of the group that was there. What we also found, which was very predominant, is at a deep level, they didn't see themselves long-term either in their role or on the path that they were in. A lot of them struggled to see how to add value in their different roles that they played in and how to differentiate the differences between. They had some role confusion. What we also found was a lot of folks were frustrated because they knew how to get different results that they could see, but they weren't able to get it. And what was really cool was after the 12-month-long Leadership Academy, we then post-tested them. And the first year, we just gathered the data just to see if we could see anything. The second year, we looked at the data and we're like, Third year, we got very interested. And what happened was, and now to this day, we're in the end, we're getting ready. We just kicked off our 7th year of doing this. And what's really cool is typically 22 out of the 26 individuals that are participating, and sometimes it's 23, and this isn't like made up numbers, this is legit. We are seeing a trend that every single one of them are showing a statistical correlation between their ability to understand how to add value in their roles, how clearly they see the direction and the vision in which they're buying into, and whether they're willing to be confident in that, and then also their trust levels and their engagement. And what is really cool is the human resource department, which is a very advanced, educated, and very savvy HR department. They're sitting here now, and what we're looking at is we're looking at the data on the backside, and they're going back and looking at the curriculum of the 12 months, and they're making curriculum decisions over the 12 months based on the data that we're pulling out of the post and pre-testing. And it's been fascinating to see. I mean, Jay, as you built the What's Your Genius program, I mean, isn't that kind of what you start to see in terms of just an individual as they go through the level 5 coaching processes and in terms of just reading the book and applying those things, that vision of themselves?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that I'm going to drive here for a sec. I mean, the key is, just reframing what we talked about, you've got more and more clients that want to see real numbers. They want to see real data. Show me the money, show me the evidence of where something's changed, which means you have to start to measure that in the beginning. You've got to set your point A and your point B. And so the examples that Brian was talking about here are the advanced insights that we teach you how to use. Let's start with, so you got the DISC, right? The DISC model, the 4 behavioral models, Dr. Marston will talk about briefly. We got the values, Dr. Spronger's models, the main drivers and motivations. And you got Dr. Hartman's model, the attribute index. And the key here is having things that you can literally like assess, like see these scores down here. You see this, right, Brian?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So, self-direction, how clearly does the individual with confidence and optimism, the little plus here, see where they're supposed to be in 12 and 18 and 24 months? How clearly do I see, ideally up here somewhere, that my career path in this organization, this is all professional, this is all corporate, is supposed to be up here? Role awareness. Does this individual between the 18th or 12th month and back to today, so this is kind of, futuristic, this is, further out, and this is closer in. How clearly do I see the roles that I'm supposed to be doing right now? Did you hire me for the description in the job description that says X, Y, and Z, and I'm actually doing A, B, and C? It's completely different, and this gets way down into this range. We see it all the time, the 3s and the 4s and the 5s, and the individual is giving us data that says, I don't understand what the hell I'm supposed to be doing in this role, or it's changed, or it's morphed. And it could be for positive reasons. You were better than anybody else. We put you as the team leader now, and you're in charge of it. Well, wait a minute. I didn't understand that was the deal. I'm not ready to be a team leader. We promoted you out of your excellence into incompetence. You're the best salesperson. You're the best salesperson on the team. Guess what? You're the new sales manager. And the role awareness goes, wah. So it can be good reasons as to why this goes down. Real quick, Brian. But these are the types of things that we can see and affect change on and go, you know what? After coaching this individual, after the training department worked with them, we can see 12 months later, this thing's come up, or 6 months or 9 months. And let me show you the really important one. Go ahead, Brian, while I pull this up here.
Well, I was just going to touch on that piece right there that you were showing. In terms of that piece there, one of the specific examples we had was one of the cohorts at the end. We saw all of them show a significant statistical, we're talking 2-3 point increase in their self-direction, which is what you said, is that ability to see themselves long-term in that role. But what we didn't see was a change in role awareness. And so what happened was we went back to their curriculum, and what we realized was there was not any one of the months that actually touched on how to teach that leader on how to set expectations with their leader on how to understand what role they played. And this was so I'm getting goosebumps, dude. The following year, they switched out one of the months and put in a month on, here's how you coach up. Here's how you hold your boss accountable. And then the next year we waited and kind of sat with bated breath. And we saw a statistical change also in their self-direction, which means they saw and were optimistic about their future. And we saw their ability to clarify at a subconscious level how to add value in those different roles. And dude, we sat there, the HR team and the president because at this point, the president's like, I'm interested in this. And so, yeah, to your point, Jay, that's a big deal, man. And those are two different things, right? From a personal side and a leader side and a parent side, or all those types of things. So. And
this is just an example. We do this with everything that you see in here. Imagine going to a hospital and you say, I'm not feeling well. And they give you all the diagnostics, because that's what we do. We have diagnostic tools for consultants. And they come back and they don't have blood pressure. They don't have cholesterol levels and lipids and, heart rate and all this. They just kind of say general malaise, you don't really feel good. And then they go and do all this stuff. And at the end, it's just this subjective scale. Did it work? I feel better. They would never do that. They would want to look at what's the blood pressure. Can we see data that shows we're improving? This is more than just
triglycerides have gone down.
And it's more than just showing marketing and selling yourself. It's more than getting the business and showing the competition isn't going to be able to do this. They're going to go, well, we don't have any ways to measure that. We'll assess them with subjective verbal inputs and formal polls. Or we'll give them a 360, which is just a way to organize subjective opinions.
Here's what's cool, Jay, is that when we've helped some of our coaches and consultants who maybe don't have all the curriculum, right, to go out and to do that 12-month leadership academy, because it's a significant investment. But what we've helped them do, and what a lot of them have done, is gone out and asked clients, do you have a leadership development program? Well, who doesn't today, right? And what we've been able to do is help our consultants go in and say, so how do you statistically track if you're moving the needle or not? And then what happens is they can bookend the training and developments, and it doesn't matter. And one of the things that we've been able to do from that abundance mentality that comes out in all of our programs is we don't want to do all things to all people. We are really all things as it pertains to talent, objective, right? We can do it. And so now that's just a huge piece. I know you were going to maybe touch on the adjustment in the disc, maybe, or where you see the D going up, or I don't know kind of where you were going with that, Jay. I think that was part of it, but
yeah, no, I think, I mean, that's just one example. I was going to give a second one here, really. I think, for those that are familiar somewhat with the DISC model, we're not going to turn this into a training program here, but this is Dr. Marston from Harvard. He's created this behavioral model. And the colored and grays represent two different things, the columns. So you've got, because it's DISC, it's somewhat superficial. It's closer to the above Freudian's conscious line. I'm aware of it. I can kind of see, wow, I'm behaving this way, or I'm kind of behaving that way, or I'm not very attentive to details, So D is the color red is your natural. When you're not thinking about it, this is how you naturally tend to be. But the gray measures your adaptation, as I like to say, or adapted. And so what happens in this behavioral model, and Marston was brilliant for finding this, is I can say naturally I would like to be way up here at an 88C, it's called, right? And that's a very high level of attention to detail, very methodical, somewhat pedantic, very accurate. But look what's happening here. They're being pushed down. Let me make my marker a little bigger. They're being pushed down here. Okay. This says, I want to be here, but I feel I have to behave like this. And it can go in any direction. We'll see people that are, a 20 on the C scale, and their adapted is up here. And they're pushing this thing up like this, going, man, I'm naturally not great at doing these types of tasks. I'm not naturally behaviorally inclined to be this way. But when we look at the distance between the natural and adapted, it helps us say we have a problem in the beginning where this individual, and we can do this statistically with the entire organization. We can do it with large groups of people. It's fun because when you aggregate all this together into an Excel spreadsheet, you can say to the corporation, the vast majority of the people in this department are making this shift. They're trying to be more of this. They're trying to be less of that. Take a person who's low on this, but their job requires them to be the liaison with the engineering team. They have to be way up here. It's outside their comfort zone. It's not natural. It's what? It's adaptive. And we see it all the time, and there's no limit to how much somebody may do this. So these are markers that say your natural cholesterol level should be here, and it's here. Or your LDL level should be here. Or your blood pressure should be here, and it's here. These are metrics that we can bring to the table to say, after we've done our work, after we've helped you with coaching on this individual, or changing roles, or leadership development, or training, or whatever, we can go back and say, look, the tension is gone. They're no longer trying to do it in this way. You can see an actual number and go, look, it's now not 42 compared to 88. It's come back into alignment of where it should be. They're more natural in their state, kind of back to what's your genius, the whole concept, but they're more steady and they're able to do the things the way they're naturally inclined to do it.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that's been really neat as we've worked with these different organizations, trying to look at how do we statistically correlate, our programs, our people, and then data, and then ultimately results. Are we actually starting to groom these? And here's a key word: is emerging leader identification, right? And not everyone should be a leader. And one of the trends right now in the market has been, how do we take some folks who've really identified as being an individual contributor, and how do we create a path to performance that allows them to stay in that genius? And that's been very, very exciting and fun as well. Because if there is that significant adjustment, the adjustment or the adaptive piece can be for a period of time, but eventually it can create burnout. But one of the things that's been very powerful in that statistical correlation is, one of the things we find is that almost all of the individuals entering this emerging leader program, we show an adaptive score on the D, which is, how decisive, right, they are in terms of how proactive and aggressive their problems. One of the things we've seen is that they tend to be a little bit less right? They tend to be a little more deliberate, a little bit more, maybe not as willing or as aggressive and engaging. What we've seen is statistically, their adaptive scores move back up to equal or even a little bit higher. So that says before, and this is what they put into their vocab words and their feedback is, I didn't necessarily see how to proactively engage. I didn't have confidence. I didn't understand my role. I didn't feel as connected to the vision. But now because I'm connected to the vision, I'm confident and optimistic, I'm willing to put myself out there and be a little more aggressive. And so because we're able to take some data from the behavioral tool, we can look at the motivators and see, does it fit what they're passionate about? But then we get into those internals and go, man, and then as they've talked one-on-one with these folks, they explain the data in terms of, this is what it said and this is what we're observing. Could you put some vocabulary around that? And these emerging leaders, man, they start to go, yeah, man, I didn't see where I was going to go, or I didn't know how to add value. And you know what? In month 8, when you taught me how to talk to my manager, I went back that next Monday and I talked to my manager. You know what she told me? She told me that I was to be in this lane, and I really thought I was supposed to be in that lane. And oh, by the way, we exchanged page 23, and I realized that her communication.
And keeping with the topic to make sure we run out of time here, he's talking about data, and he's talking about the big problem that's a discussion here in front of us today. And I'm showing another example of some of the data that we really try to help our clients measure. This is the organizational health checkup, is being able to go in and say, in these areas, we were performing back here 6, 9, 12 months ago at a 2.5 out of a 5, and you can go back in and remeasure these things on a daily basis. Would be stupid, but you can do it however frequently you want. There's no limitation to it. So the key is, how do we get numbers? How do we act like those physicians? Because this topic today is clients over and over and over and more and more and more are going to want to have some discussion around ROI. You're going to hear it. They're going to say, how do we know you're going to be able to do it? How do we track and see that it happened? Besides fluffy, hey, everyone thinks it's better. So Brian, last thoughts?
Go sell some shit.
Time's up. 20 minutes. Go make some money. Talk to you later.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Hey, subscribe, give us a call. We're here. That's what we do every day, baby.
We'll do it.